Hmm, where's my phone? Yes, here it is. Let's scroll on Instagram for a few seconds. Not minutes, WM, just for seconds. I can start noticing something, subtle at first, then it's impossible to ignore. Same lips, same jawline, different names, different lives, but almost identical faces. It's not because we have decided to look the same, but because we have all been exposed to the same pattern. And at some point, even your phone might think that you are looking at the same person again and again. We call this beauty standards. Biology would call it something else, a fragile system. Because in nature, when it starts to look the same, it's not a sign of perfection, it is warning. It spreads fast, silently, and completely, and within a very short time, everything collapses. A uniform system does not fail slowly, it fails all and at once. And here's where it becomes uncomfortable, because in nature we perfectly understand this. But when it comes to ourselves, we just forget. We build invisible standards, not written anywhere, but felt everywhere. What success should look like, what intelligence should look like, what a good life should look like. And the list goes on, as there is only one definition of right. There is a path. You are supposed to learn certain things, you are supposed to choose a safe career, you are supposed to work a certain number of hours, and you are supposed to reach certain milestones by a certain age. And if you follow that path, then congratulations. People would say that you are doing well. But if you don't follow it, people may not always tell you something directly, but you can feel it. The hesitation, the questions, the subtle judgments, as if you have stepped outside something you were not supposed to leave. But you are supposed to learn, do something specific. But we can see this everywhere. I have already felt what people can feel when they choose differently. The pose and the look that says, "Are you sure?" And this is seen everywhere, in social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, in classrooms, in workplaces, everywhere. Why did he choose literature? His math score is so high. He did not become a doctor. No way. He could have been. Why did he decide to become a tailor? Wow. Look at her. She's working for 8 hours a day. Unlike him, he's working just for a few hours at home. He should be lazy. Wow. He got married, he bought a car, he bought a house, and he got children. He is successful, isn't he? Wow. She is rich. She should be lucky. So we keep on, and somehow people turned life into a checklist and somehow forgot to include on it the term be happy. And to be honest, we are contributing to the design of this system too, and this checklist. But what if all of these assumptions are not just limiting? What if it is biologically wrong? In biology, difference is not something to accept. It's something required for systems to work and to function. Biology operates as a complex system shaped by variation, adaptation, and evolution. And within these systems, sameness is not strength, it is a risk. Standardization simplifies systems, but also weakens them. As a biologist, I spend all of my time studying how living systems functions, not how we think they should do, but what actually and really do. So here which is, by the way, much more interesting and less organized than what we think. Let's take a simple example. In plant species, growing into a specific field, and even under identical conditions, individuals would not behave the same way. Some plants are vulnerable to diseases and pests. Others are resistant. Here, biology would not ask which one is correct, but which one can survive here and now, because survival is not about perfection, it's about adaptation. Now imagine if all of these individuals were the same. One disease and everything disappears. Uniformity does not simplify systems, but also weaken them. Across environments, the same principle holds. In deserts, plants conserve water. In flooded environments, plants are adapted to excess of water. Same foundation, completely different strategies. There is no one unique solution, but just what works in context. This is how a complex system functions. Even at the genetic level, variation is fundamental. DNA is not rigid. It is dynamic, flexible, and responsive to its environment. Some example of DNA sequences called transposable elements, referred to as jumping DNA, are sequences that are able to jump from a site to another within the genome, and their insertions subsequently can affect the expression of certain genes. It looks a little bit complicated, but let's simplify it with an example. In maize, these jumping sequences can switch pigment genes on and off, what creates a different kernel colors. So the same organism, same genetic foundation, yet visibly different outcomes. And different corns, so the same corn also refuses to look the same, which says a lot. Now, these changes are not just limited to appearance. Similar variations in certain populations and organisms can affect behavior. And in some insects population, jumping DNA can affect the courtship signal, and including the song that attracts a mate. So even insects have their own version of romantic playlist. So here, some signals can attract, others cannot, and such small differences decide who reproduces and who does not. You might say that even your DNA does not really follow strict rules. So here, there are, at any given time, some genes are active, others are just silent. And this depends on the context, on the environmental signals, on the internal needs or stress. But together, they create a balance. So even your genes know the right time and place to speak. Some of us are still working on that skill. So, yeah, even within a single organism, variation is essential for systems to work. So, like similar biological systems, human systems depend on variation. Yet, we continue to design people as everyone was the same. Perhaps the most striking example is within our body. One human begins with a single cell carrying the same DNA, and from this single cell emerges an extraordinary diversity. Skin cells, the cardiac cells, blood cells, lymphocytes, erythrocytes, a huge variation. Different structures, different functions, different roles. Cells do not need to be the same to be effective, but they need to be different to make life possible. Imagine if all of these cells were identical. Life would not be better, it would be impossible. Now, I invite you all to close your eyes and think about it deeply. Imagine if all of your cells have suddenly decided to become brain cells. So there is no more heart to pump blood, no more oxygen for lungs, So because there is no more lungs, no food, because there is no more digestion, so your brain cells will be no longer receive oxygen or nutrients. And I'm so sorry to tell you that you are not able to open your eyes because you don't have eyes anymore. So it looks impressive, but it's not practical. And this is not only something that we observe in biology, but we live it in our lives. In 2016, during the doctorals taking place in Morocco, I had the opportunity to work with a team composed of completely different profiles: biology, pharmacy, computer science, economics, business, philosophy, geography, and arts. So yeah, we were a team of completely different minds, completely different ways of thinking, wearing exactly the same yellow uniform as a group of synchronized sunflowers. So apparently diversity was happening, just not in our dress code. And I was the sunflower in the center. So yeah, so we had different ways of thinking, and at first we did not think the same way, we did not speak the same professional language, and we didn't approach problems the same way. We were supposed to prepare a startup and design it to solve an economically important issue. It sounds clear enough, but it was not. So one of us, I remember, he said, yeah, we need a market strategy. The second one said, no, we need funding. Someone else said, no, we need a scientific validation first. The fourth one said, excuse me, can you tell me what problem we are solving now? The fifth one was just, what? So, and at one point, I remember looking around and thinking, are we building a new company or are we designing a species of confusion? So, yes, we were all motivated, we were all intelligent, we were all smart, with different ways of thinking and completely different minds, but this strangely was an advantage for us. Indeed, something changed. Each perspective succeeded to fill in a gap the others could not see. What made the system work wasn't similarity, but the absence of redundancy. So if we had all thought the same way, we could not have solved that problem, and we would not have been effective. We would have been inefficient. And by the end, that team of people who barely agree had won the third best startup award. And I can never forget this memorable moment, and it was really impressive. We were completely different, but we succeeded and we made it to the top. This confirms what biology had already taught me. Difference is not an obstacle. It's how systems function, adapt, evolve, and survive. And even if we talk about intelligence, people think in different ways. Some people think in numbers, other in words, other in music, sound, image, or movement. So what people call intelligence is not one ability, it is many. Yet we continue to design people as if they were all the same. Now imagine if we all have become doctors. Unemployment would be very well diagnosed, and some problems may be accurately solved, but just not the right ones. You might appreciate that diagnosis, but I'm not sure that you would enjoy it. And beyond that, who would teach, who would build, who would innovate, who would create? A uniform system does not function. It stops functioning. It can never function better. So the question is no longer whether we should accept difference or not, but how long we keep on pretending that sameness is good. Difference, it's not something to tolerate, it is the condition of life, and nature has already learned the lesson. Sameness is for machines, difference is for humans, it's for life. Thank you so much.